Jesus reveals what most get wrong about talking to God. Have you ever felt like your prayers are just words bouncing off the ceiling? Maybe you've prayed and wondered, does God even hear me? Or perhaps you've caught yourself repeating the same phrases, hoping that somehow they'll get through. What if there's a deeper, richer way to pray, a way that transforms not just your circumstances, but your heart? Imagine if one prayer could unlock peace, healing, and a connection with God that you've been longing for. What would that look like for you? Think about your life right now. Is there a burden weighing on you, a financial struggle, a broken relationship, or the crushing weight of anxiety? Whatever it is, you're not alone. Jesus gave us a blueprint for prayer, one that shifts our focus from simply asking for what we want to aligning our hearts with what we truly need. And the good news? It's simpler than you think. Let's uncover what most people get wrong about prayer and discover the life-changing way Jesus taught us to talk to God. One common mistake we make in prayer is diving straight into our requests. It's like approaching someone you love and skipping the greeting, diving right into, "Here's what I need." Jesus begins his teaching on prayer in Matthew 6:9 with these words, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name." This isn't just a formal introduction. It's an invitation to pause and recognize who God is. When we say, "Hallowed be your name," we are declaring that God is holy, set apart, and worthy of our worship. Think about Moses standing before the burning bush in Exodus 3:5. God told him, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." It wasn't about the dirt Moses was standing on, it was about God's presence. When we begin prayer with worship, acknowledging God's greatness, we align our hearts with His. Instead of rushing in with requests, start by saying, "Lord, you are holy. You are my creator, my provider, my guide. I worship you for who you are." This simple act shifts your perspective and prepares your heart for a deeper connection. Another mistake we often make is treating prayer like a spiritual vending machine. We present our list of wants and expect God to deliver. But Jesus teaches us in Matthew 6 verse 10, "Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Prayer isn't about bending God's will to match ours. It's about aligning our hearts with His. Think of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Matthew 26:39, he prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Even as he faced unimaginable suffering, Jesus trusted God's plan. When you pray, try saying, "Lord, I trust you. Even if things don't go the way I hope, I know your will is perfect. Help me surrender my plans and align my heart with yours." Surrendering isn't easy, but it brings peace, knowing that God's plans are always for our ultimate good. Worry often hijacks our prayers, doesn't it? We come to God not in faith, but in fear, listing all the things we're afraid of. But Jesus reminds us in Matthew 6:11 to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." This is more than just asking for food. It's a declaration of trust. It's saying, "God, I trust you to meet my needs today." Remember the Israelites in the wilderness? In Exodus 16, God provided manna each morning, but only enough for that day. If they tried to gather more, it would spoil. Why? Because God was teaching them to trust Him daily. When you pray, focus on the present moment. Say, "Lord, thank you for today. Help me to trust you for what I need right now and not worry about tomorrow." This daily dependence builds a deep, unshakable trust in God's provision. One of the biggest barriers in prayer is unforgiveness. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:12, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Forgiveness is not just something we receive, it's something we extend. Jesus explains this further in Matthew 6:14-15. If you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Think about the parable of the unforgiving servant in Matthew 18:23-35. A servant who owed an enormous debt was forgiven, but refused to forgive someone who owed him far less. His lack of mercy cost him dearly. Forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions, it's about freeing yourself from the prison of bitterness. When you pray, ask God to help you forgive. Say, Lord, I release this hurt to you. Heal my heart and help me walk in your grace. Letting go of unforgiveness clears the way for God's peace to flood your life. Prayer also reminds us that we're not meant to face life's challenges alone. Jesus teaches us to pray in Matthew 6:13, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." This isn't just about avoiding sin, it's about asking God for strength in the battles we face. Think about Joseph in Genesis 39. When tempted by Potiphar's wife, he didn't try to reason his way out of it. He fled, trusting God to protect and guide him. When you pray, say, Lord, I'm not strong enough to face this on my own. Lead me away from temptation and protect me from anything that could harm my faith. This part of prayer reminds us that we don't fight our battles alone. God is our protector and guide. Many of us think we need polished words and perfect phrasing for our prayers to work. But Jesus says in Matthew 6:7, "When you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think they will be heard for their many words." God isn't looking for a performance. He's looking for your heart. Think of Hannah in 1 Samuel 1:10-13. In her desperation, she prayed so silently that Eli thought she was drunk. Yet God heard her heart and answered her prayer. When you pray, don't worry about sounding perfect. Just be honest. Say, Lord, I'm struggling. Please help me. God values authenticity over eloquence every time. Faith is the foundation of prayer. Jesus says in Matthew 21:22, "Whatever you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive." Faith bridges the gap between our prayers and God's power. Think of the woman with the issue of blood in Matthew 9:20-22. She believed that touching Jesus' garment would heal her, and it did. Her faith moved Jesus to action. When you pray, approach God with confidence. Say, Lord, I trust that you hear me. I believe you are working in my life even when I can't see it. Faith transforms prayer from a ritual into a powerful encounter with God. As we reflect on these truths, let's remember that prayer is not just a list of requests. It's a conversation with the Creator. It's worshiping Him, surrendering to His will, trusting Him for daily provision, forgiving others, and seeking His guidance. It's about being honest, having faith, and aligning our hearts with His promises. Imagine what your life could look like if you approached prayer with these principles. What if, instead of rushing through your prayers, you took the time to truly connect with God? What if you let go of the worries, the grudges, and the need to control? How might your faith deepen, your relationships heal, and your perspective shift? Take a moment now to reflect. Let this be a fresh start, a new way to pray. God is waiting to hear from you, not with judgment, but with love, ready to meet you where you are. So why wait? Start today. Open your heart and watch how prayer transforms not just your circumstances, but your very soul.